You're killing your e-bike without even knowing it. I've got a whole bunch of top tips to ensure that you get the most out of your bike and ensure that it lasts for as long as possible, because let's face it, it probably wasn't cheap. Looking after your battery should be one of your main priorities because it does have the ability to degrade over time, but to what extent can be determined by how you treat it. So here are my top tips to ensure that it lasts for as long as possible. First up, if you've got a lithium-ion battery, which most e-bikes do, then don't allow your battery to get all the way to zero. You do have what's called a BMS or battery management system. Now that's there to ensure that the battery never actually gets to zero, and it will cut the charge off to make sure that there's a little bit of residual power in there. Should you ever actually get to zero, then the cells will never recharge again and it will be absolutely toast. So the best practice is to ensure you never let your battery get near that level and to charge it regularly. A question that often comes up is, will I damage my battery if I charge it up to 100%? Well, no you won't, but you may get fewer charge cycles. Now, a charge cycle is a full discharge and recharge. A normal e-bike battery would be expected to get between 800 to 1,000 charge cycles. If you charge to 100% all the time, then you may be looking towards the lower side of that bracket. If, however, you charge to 90%, you could be looking towards the higher side of that bracket. The trade-off is, though, that you might be left with slightly less range to use when you're out riding. The good thing is, though, that the BMS will ensure that when you get to 100%, it will cut off the charge and protect the battery, so it is very hard to do long-term damage. Balancing a battery is some pretty nerdy e-bike knowledge, but bear with me here. As we already know, the BMS will protect the battery so that the level won't get so low that it damages itself. And it will also mean that when we get to 100%, it will also cut off the charge. However, if you don't charge the battery to 100% on occasion, then it won't have a chance to balance itself. And this means that the overall range of the battery will slowly decrease over time. So if you do want to maximize the number of charge cycles you get by charging to 90%, do ensure that on occasion you charge to 100% to allow the battery to balance itself so that you ensure that you maintain the amount of range that the battery is capable of delivering. This may mean that you have to closely monitor the battery level whilst charging, which for some may just not be practical at all. Come winter time, when perhaps you've stabled the pony, but you want to ensure that you're still looking after it properly, there are a couple of things you can do to make sure it doesn't damage itself. So, if you're planning on leaving your bike stationary for anywhere up to a month, it's absolutely fine to leave at 100%. If you're going to be storing it for over a month and longer, then I would recommend leaving it at 70% and also dismounting the battery from the bike and leaving it at an ambient room temperature. Some manufacturers recommend charging every 6 months to ensure good battery health if you're really putting it into some long-term storage. It should go without saying, but definitely don't leave it without any battery at all. Like I've previously mentioned, if the battery then dips below that safe level, it will be completely toast and it will not charge up again. So do not store it close to empty. Continuing along the vein of storage, if you're able to leave your bike or just the battery at an ambient room temperature, then this is definitely a really good thing to do. If a battery is left out in the cold, then it will lose its charge and the range would also drop considerably. If you regularly ride in freezing conditions, then I would recommend investing in an insulating thermal jacket to keep the battery at an optimal operating temperature. Now you can find a link to one of these down in the description down below. So there we have it. Those are my top tips for looking after your electric bike and hopefully making it last for as long as possible. Ultimately, a battery is an exhaustible item and over time it will degrade. So if your range has dropped so far below what it was when you got it from new, it may be that it needs replacement. With my tips though, you can make sure that it will last for as long as possible. If you have any of your own tips that you think are worthwhile sharing, then drop them down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, drop it a like, subscribe to the channel for more content, and I will see you again very soon.